I met Bruce Lee in 1959. He had landed in San Francisco where he was born, and ultimately through Ruby Chow, who sponsored him up here. He came up here, and actually I met him through some of the former friends that had been working out with Bruce. Bruce had had a certain path that he was walking from Ruby Chow's restaurant up to Edison Vocational School, where he was taking English lessons, and Jesse Glover, who was actually Bruce's first student, was walking along the same path, and they suddenly at one point became sort of used to each other walking the same distance, so they became friends. And sometime after that, through Jesse and some of his other friends, they actually were shopping with us because they lived in the neighborhood, and they told me about this young man that had performed in a seafarer pageant down at Chinatown, and he had done the cha-cha as a demonstration, also some gung fu. He said Chinese gung fu, and I thought, what is this? The only thing I'd heard of before that was Japanese karate. And so they said, well, this guy's only 18 years old, but he's a phenomenal practitioner. And so I said, well, I've seen some of the top guys of Japan, and how could a young 18-year-old be that much of an impressive person? But anyway, I was interested, so I made arrangements with them to meet with him on a given weekend, and that's how I met Bruce. And of course, when I went down to this particular location where they're working out, why, first thing they told me was, do something to Bruce, throw a punch at him or do something. And immediately I was a little bit taken aback, because I was thinking about landing on my head somewhere. But anyhow, I went through the motions and threw a wild punch at him, and before I knew it, he had me tied up into something that resembles a pretzel. But I felt those blows coming against my face that struck me like a hurricane coming at me, and it scared the living daylights out of me. And I immediately said to myself, my God, I got to learn something with this guy. So that's how I got to get into the class. And during that time in Seattle, we had no particular locations. We just worked out wherever we had a place to go on a given day, and we worked out in Seattle park departments, underneath buildings, in people's backyards, and they were very impersonal, informal lessons, that is, and he wasn't charging anything. But it got to a point where Bruce was staying with the Ruby Chow family, and Bruce was a very dominant personality, as was Ruby Chow. And so there was somewhat of a clash in their, getting along. And Bruce was always telling us that, gosh, I wish I could get out from under that. I'd like to be on my own. And so at some point down the line, we said, look, why don't you start a school? We'll all pay you some dues, and then you can make enough money to get out on your own. So that's how he launched out on his own. And in doing that, why, we also said, look, we got to find a place to work out. So obviously Chinatown was the obvious place to start. And during those days in Chinatown, there was a lot of empty rooms that were just lying vacant and just really cluttered and all this kind of stuff. And so when we went to see some of these people, where we were able to make arrangements to clean up the place and to turn it into a little dojo. And the first one was on 8th and King Street, I believe. 8th and Dearborn, excuse me. No, it was 8th and Weller. And then Bruce was able to collect dues from us, and he was able to move out on his own. And from there, I believe that the owners, after we got it cleaned up, maybe they had better ideas what they could do with the place. So we moved on and went up to 8th and 8th Avenue South and King Street, and that became our second school. And from there, after at that time, kung fu was hardly thought of. It was more of an ethnic thing that they kept to themselves. The Japanese karate was the most popular thing, but even that was just beginning to get an edge of popularity in this country. And so Bruce said that he was going to teach us. But he needed to, spread the word out that he was teaching and show his ability. So what we did was we started giving demonstrations at the University of Washington, mostly to the fraternities, to these young school students, and even sororities, where we tried to get women students even. And at that point, when we started to get some good turnout, why it became necessary for us to get a location out there. So then The third location became at, I think it was 4740 University Way out in the University District, and it was a large place. It was a ground floor location, probably 2,000 to 3,000 square feet, and gave him room to live in the back. And then from that point on, a couple of years in a row, maybe 3 years, Ed Parker, who was into Kempo karate, he had these exhibitions that he put on in Long Beach, California, about once a year. It was kind of a world karate tournament, and when he had met Bruce sometime prior to that, and he was so impressed with him that he would fly him down there and have Bruce put an exhibition on. But of course, Bruce always asked to take me down there because I was kind of his dummy, and I don't know if Ed appreciated that very much, but he did it nevertheless. And so I went down there 2-3 years with Bruce, and in 1964, I think Blake Edwards was the honored guest there that sort of added a lot of impression to the tournament itself too, you know. And during that time, the Batman series was really coming on pretty well on TV, and I think that they felt that because of Batman being so popular, maybe they could revive the Green Hornet series. So one day in 1964, Bruce came to me and said that he'd gotten a phone call from 20th Century Fox to come down there and do an interview with them to maybe get the part as Kato in the Green Hornet series. And so, of course, that's all history now. He got the part, and so then he left. And so then at that point, I closed that school down and brought it back down to the second location in Chinatown. And I kept that open until Bruce felt that, not Bruce felt, but he began to do pretty well by teaching the celebrities down there. And so he no longer needed my help to keep the school open. And so that's the way it was. Bruce was going to Edison Vocational School at the time, and of course he was a very man with much personality, and Bruce was the kind of a guy that if he walked into a group of people, I mean, even though he was only 5'7" and weighed 130 pounds or in there about, it sort of lit up the air in some way, sort of magnified things when he walked in. I mean, you could just feel that charisma of a guy coming in there, but he had no intention of trying to put anybody else down with any other martial arts. But I guess maybe somewhat connected with one of the statements I made earlier, Chinese Gung Fu was sort of a rarity, and for him to be pushing something like that, there was an occasion when there was a young man that was a second-degree black belt from Japan, I believe. He was already teaching here in Seattle, and he was also going to Edison Vocational School, and he took exception to the fact that Bruce was trying to teach this to people, and I think he overdid himself by thinking that Bruce was trying to put him down or anything, and whenever we'd put on demonstrations on more than one occasion, he would come up and challenge Bruce right in the middle of the demonstration, and it got to the point where Bruce didn't want to to have anything to do with that, but it got to the point where even at school, when he'd be talking with a group of people, this person would come up and interject and say, oh, that Bruce Lee, he doesn't know anything, and I'll fight him right now, or that type of thing. And it finally got to the point where Bruce told him that he didn't want to fight him. He said, I'm not trying to knock your point of teaching down or anything, but he said, if this keeps happening, he said, we're going to have to do something, and so ultimately what happened was they took up he took up the challenge, and they had a sort of a hidden fight down in the YMCA in Seattle, and I wasn't there, but I was told that it only lasted 11 seconds, and Bruce, he didn't try to hurt him badly, but he hurt him bad enough to where there was no mistake as to who the troublemaker was and who was the victor. But these were the kind of things that Bruce encountered when he went down to Oakland. The Chinese community in San Francisco was a little bit more vocal, I think, than they were up here, and they finally arranged for one of their top kung fu men to challenge Bruce to try to make him stop. And of course, Bruce, from what I was told, Bruce won that one too. When Bruce came to Seattle, he was very thoroughly endowed with many of the systems of martial arts, but when he was in Hong Kong, I think he felt that the Wing Chun system was probably the most realistic in terms of economy of motion and a lot minimizing the classicalness of things. And so, although he was well versed in the Charlie Foot, the praying mantis, and a lot of other styles like that, he could stand in front of you and imitate, 90% of them probably better than the people that were masters and the others could. But he felt that this was the most realistic thing. And of course, he always went by the axiom that the most simple, direct action was the most realistic. And he likened it to swimming on dry land versus swimming in the water. He said, at some point in time, if you continue to swim on dry land, you got to get into the action. You got to get into the water. But when he came over here, why he pretty much stuck with the Wing Chun system, but along with his theory of economy of motion and practicalness, he modified it to what he thought was right. And since then, I have had students of a pretty firm background in Wing Chun that have come to my club here and wondered what we were doing because they didn't see too much resemblance. But I think that the testament in it is that Bruce finally developed a fighting method called which he called Jeet Kune Do that encompasses the most simplified things but the most realistic things. So I think his whole point was that at some point in time you need to subtract rather than keep adding. Each year Ed Parker would have a international Long Beach tournament in karate, and of course each year he had some dignitaries during the intermissions that gave exhibitions, and Bruce Lee had met Ed Parker on a previous occasion when he was down there, and Bruce was one of these kind of guys that whenever he met somebody that was interested in the same field of practice as him, why he would humbly talk to you, and of course it would lead to exchange of ideas. And Bruce was very careful not to do anything that became confrontational, but it immediately impressed the heck out of anybody he was talking to, and Ed Parker was no exception. He was very impressed with Bruce, and so he would invite Bruce down to do demonstrations, and it was during 1964 that with Blake Edwards being one of the honored guests there, that Bruce was invited down there, and of course he always took me along with him, and so we put the demonstration on, and of course Blake Edwards had been I think somewhat involved with the Batman series, and so I think it just followed that they thought maybe if they could revive the Green Hornet series, why they'd have hit on their hands. And so when he saw Bruce do his thing down there, he was so unbelievably impressed that he felt that here's a guy that could probably handle the Kato position in the Green Hornet series. And so one day early in the spring, Bruce came to me and said that he'd had a call from 20th Century Fox that they wanted him to come down and interview for possibly the position of Kato. So he said, what do you think? And I said, well, God, Bruce, I said, you got to go down. And so he went down there, and of course the rest is history.